Today is one of our favorite topics ever. It's about the true history of Egypt. We're going to go deep dive into what happened in Egypt and why is it even important. We're going to talk about how Egypt is connected to the ancient culture and civilization of Atlantis. We're going to talk about how Egypt, Atlantis was connected to Glastonbury, Avalon, the times of Yeshua, King Arthur, Merlin. And we're going to do this over a series of videos because there's so much history packed. Today's focus is mainly on Egypt.
Yes.
And Akhenaton and Nefertiti, of course, who have been lost in the sands of time, but they're one of the most important figures in our history.
The most important players.
Yeah.
Before we even start, I just want to make a major announcement. Everybody save the date, whether you're in Australia or India or Japan or wherever you are. This solstice, which is Thursday, June 20th, is a very auspicious occasion.
Awesome.
So every single one of you is invited. For the last 5 years, Saman and I have been hosting online solstice ceremonies because of how powerful solstice is, especially when light workers come together in sacred ceremony. So we're going to be having a sacred ceremony. We're going to be calling in the angels and the ascended masters and channeling any messages from them. We're going to have our drums out, our music out. We have Nectaria coming in, who is an angelic singer who's going to come and share her vocals. It's free for all. Make sure you invite your family and friends who are awakened, because the way solstice works is, you know how on Earth we celebrate Christmas and New Year's and Valentine's and all these matrix holidays? Solstice and equinox, and these are all like really the light worker holidays that not many of us are already celebrating. So this is our way of celebrating together as soul family. Yes, somebody said I need a drum. That's hilarious. So come in, and so that save the time, the solstice ceremony is going to be live on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is Eldora and Siman. And it's going to be on June 20th at 3:33 p.m. EST. It'll last about an hour and a half. Now, these ceremonies are also very activating. Many people who come into these ceremonies feel like a lot of healing taking place because the ascended masters are here. They come in with great bells and whistles. We call in Mother Gaia. We call in the spirits of the land, the elders of Tulum, the ancestors of the light. So definitely come and join us, because this is, and also we're going to be saying world intentions, all of us together. Okay, so mark the date. The second announcement I have is that on June 29th, I don't understand your question. On June 29th, we're doing a solar flash attunement and quantum healing. This is going to be at the New Earth Mystery School, and it's highly recommended, especially if you're having a hard time balancing the ascension energies and whatnot. We're going to be diving into a few tools and tips on how to navigate the solar flash, first of all. And then at the end of the workshop, we're going to be giving you a full-fledged quantum healing to balance your chakras, balance your light bodies, and you leave feeling much more clear. And the good news is that you have lifetime access to it, or well, as long as you're a NEMS member, you have access to it. So you can repeat it every month as you need. And how do you join this? This is on June 29th. This is the solar flash attunement. It's on June 29th at 1:30 p.m. EST. And you guys can go to NEMS.LOVE. So it's www.NEMS.LOVE/NEMS, and you'll see all the links to join us. All right, guys, so welcome Facebook, welcome Instagram, welcome Soul Family. You know, a lot of people talk about Egypt, but our intention today is to really give you guys a connection with Egypt. You can actually turn that off. It's kind of noisy.
It's not doing anything.
Yeah. We're going to give you guys a connection, or that's at least our intention, with Egypt, Atlantis, and many of us. What were we doing there? What were our roles in ancient Egypt and Atlantis and Lemuria? What are some of our memories? And as you guys start listening to more and more of these transmissions, more of your DNA will start to activate. And what does that look like in real life for you? You'll start feeling smarter. You'll start communicating better. You'll start having more access and more life force for more of your projects. You'll feel more aligned to your soul's mission. This is really what it means when we say we're activating our higher DNA strands. Siman and I have activated higher DNA strands, and literally as we go higher, we feel like we can hold more of the light. We can do more of the projects that we are being asked to do by our team of guides and whatnot. So today we're going to dive deep into ancient Egypt. We're going to connect it to Atlantis and Lemuria, what many of us were doing there. We're going to also talk a little bit about how the extraterrestrials like Thoth and Ra and Isis and the Law of One and Akhenaton, Nefertiti, all the roles that we played in these very powerful epochs of time, and how history is repeating, but in a very positive way. So this is a packed transmission. Hi, Serafina. Hi, Isa. Hi, Starla.
And just to give you a bit of background, the information that we download is channeled from our guides. We connect with the White Wing Feline Collective of Sirius B, which is an ascended race of beings in the sixth density from the Sirius star system. And many of the ascended masters who walk this planet, like Thoth, Ra, Isis, Yeshua, all of these masters are adepts or spiritual masters from Sirius B, and they've completed their initiations through the higher dimensions, and then they incarnate on Earth. And now they're connecting with us. Like, we've connected directly with Yeshua. I've actually seen him face to face in a very vivid encounter that I can never forget. And I had a also very personal encounter with Thoth. Some people also pronounce it Tehote. Thoth came, when was it? When we were in Morocco, like 2 years ago, 2022.
Yeah.
And I had a kind of like a merger with Thoth. It was like an intertwining of energies, and I remembered many of my ancient Egyptian memories from that encounter. So we download the information from our guides directly, but we've also verified and corroborated this information from many other channel sources, and it all seems to line up. So our specialty in this ascension, and one of our soul's mission, is to help humanity connect the dots of all of our history. Because we all remember, oh my God, we were in Atlantis, we were in Egypt, but we don't know what's the significance of Atlantis. What's so important?
Yes.
So what if you were in Egypt? Why was that important? So our main objective and our intention is to help connect the dots of our true history for humanity. Because until and unless we understand our history, we will not be able to move forward towards our true future, towards the golden age. In order to know where you're going, you have to first know where you've been. And one of the biggest tools that the Dark Ones or the Cabal have used against us is to disconnect us from our history. So they don't want us to know anything that happened before 6,000 years ago. And they tell us that humanity was like a cave-dwelling species, and all we had was chisels and axes, and we were a primitive species, and before that nothing existed. But if you just go to the sites today, if you take a flight to go to Egypt, you'll see temples that are 80,000 years old. How's that possible?
And they're like 20 feet high.
Yeah, it's so obvious. All of the proof and evidence of ancient civilization is there before your very eyes.
Yes.
But a lot of the truths have been distorted in the history books, and even the mainstream scientists and archaeologists have been bought out by the system. So anyone who actually attempts to tell the truth is immediately suppressed and denied and censored. And those books are not allowed to be published. But now there's so much information that's coming out, because inevitably the truth has to come out. You cannot bury it forever.
Yes.
And now 2024, Earth is time coded to expand our knowledge, expand our history, and all the history is in the grids of our planet, and it's also hidden within our DNA. So now it's time for us to remember who we truly are and where we came from.
Yes, I love what you said about 2024. It truly is time coded. That's how it seems. And you know, back to what Saman was saying, when we were in Egypt recently, the temples are gigantic. Like the domes of the temples, to enter the temples, are huge.
And we've been to all these sacred sites, so we speak from experience.
It literally, well, we've been to not only in this lifetime, but also in past lifetimes. And by the way, for 2025, many of you know we are going to be going on Egypt. We're going to be going on the House of Ra tour, which is a 10-day tour. So for any of you who are like, we have to be there, get on the wait list right away. Just write to us at info@NEMS.LOVE and say, put my name down for Egypt. So when the wait list goes up, we send it out right away. But you know, I wanted to talk about when you're in the temples, you really realize, and our intention is to activate your own DNA, because as Saman said, when we realize our history, our galactic history, that we are not mere mortals, we're not just mere slaves, humanity, dumbed down species that are here to work our 9-to-5 jobs and be stuck in the matrix, something massive happens. And I'll give you a real life story that I've never shared before. It's a simple story. a week and a half ago, Saman was washing dishes. Literally, he was in the sink washing dishes, and he fell to his feet in overwhelm. It all happened in a moment. He literally fell to his feet and he's like, oh my God, I just got a download. And I said, what was it? I came to him, I gave him water. Remember?
Yeah.
10 days ago.
Yeah.
And we told our team right away. And you know what the download was? They said, Eldora and Saman, you know how you've started now sharing a lot of these galactic videos, and most of the stuff we share is we don't just share it from like a head oriented space. We really are, what our expertise is, we tie in the dots. We tie up all the loops. We relate it to the ascension, we relate it to humanity, and not so much from a textbook point of view, but from a galactic point of view of how we go back and through our own remembrances, we're sharing with you first hand where we're moving and where humanity is moving. And you know what the message was? Last year, the dark negative forces tried very, very hard to knock us off our feet and really destabilize our operations. Many of you know about this, and they did not succeed. And you know what the download Saman received was? He said all of that was to prevent this timeline. What is this timeline? This timeline where you start sharing every week, week after week after week, your galactic history, talk about Atlantis, but more from a way that people get it. Because a lot of people are talking about it on planet Earth, and what they're saying is that the way you both explain it, people are able to absorb it in their DNA and put the links together. They're saying as more and more of us start talking about this, it's going to activate all our remembrances, and guess what's going to happen? Once humanity remembers our galactic origins, there's no way, like the ascension is just a domino effect after that. So that whole psychic attack that we went through from the dark was to prevent this timeline of the truth. And now we are out of their reach. Vibrationally, we are out of their reach. So now the timelines have started.
Now we cannot be stopped.
Now we cannot be stopped. And so back to what I was saying about the temples in Egypt, they are really, really high, like the domes. So you might just wonder, how tall were we? We're not talking about 5 feet and 6 feet tall humans. We're talking about 10, 14 feet extraterrestrial gods, godlike beings that were walking. So everything is really, really high. And so like Saman was saying, the evidence is right there. Like when you look at Egypt, yes, people say, well, it's only a few thousand years old, 6,000 years old. But when we were there, we saw with our physical proof that many of these are 80, 100,000-year-old megalithic structures that, of course, were not man-made. There's no way man could, work through chisels and carry tons and tons of bricks on their backs. So this is all very activating because it really reminds us of our heritage, where we come from, and how we are going back to where we came from. We're not just mere humans here living off our DNA 3 and 4 strands. There's a whole ascension path ahead of us, my friends.
Yeah, definitely. And when we went first to Egypt, I want to give you a personal share. The official story of Egypt is that the pyramids were built 6,000 years ago with people carrying these 5-ton bricks on their backs, which is next to impossible because there's hundreds of thousands of rocks that built the Giza pyramid. If we were to calculate how long it would take slave laborers to stack all those rocks on top of each other, it would take hundreds of years. Even if it's remotely possible for these slaves to carry rocks on their backs and stack them on top of each other. So today we're going to share with you the download from Thoth of how the pyramids were created, and it's a very interesting download.
That's just the first download.
Yeah.
There's so many downloads. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about, a lot of us are from Atlantis, from Lemuria, from Egypt. But what does that really mean? Like, I want you guys to get a connection with what is the connection between Egypt and Atlantis? And more importantly, why does Egypt evoke so many memories and emotions within us? Like, that's what we want to hit on today. And what else are we going to talk about? We are going to talk about the purpose of the Giza pyramids, the purpose of the Sphinx, what the mega goal or the mega mission they hold in the ascension of humanity and holding the grids. We're going to connect everything to how Atlantis and Thoth and the Egyptian masters like Ra and Isis and the Law of One and all of that came in, and how Yeshua came in, and how you and me and all of us light workers were in many of those times and we've come back today. And we're going to talk about how all these civilizations, whether Atlantis or Lemuria or Egypt or now, all had the same purpose, the same mission, and that was to hold the light into the grids of the land, to pave way for this domino effect, this ascension of humanity into the golden age, which by the way is now going to trigger, once we ascend, it's going to trigger an entire domino effect in the entire universe. Our entire universe is going to go up an octave. So where do you want to start? Welcome everybody.
Welcome everyone. So let me quickly look at...
So we can start with, I think, this.
Right. So many light workers that are watching this transmission and will watch this transmission in the future, we all, when we hear about ancient Egypt, it's like our soul lights up, right? But why is that? Or we talk about ancient Atlantis and we're like, oh my God, I feel such a deep connection with Atlantis. But that seems a bit strange to normal humans. They're like, what is Atlantis? It may be a myth. Does it even exist?
And before you start, let's even ask them.
Yeah.
Who here feels a connection? Comment and let
us
us know.
Feels a connection
Let's make
with
this
Egypt,
a two-way.
Atlantis, Lemuria, ancient civilizations.
Tecumseh says yes. Who feels it? Who else feels the connection? And where do you feel it with? Do you feel it with Atlantis? Do you feel like a Lemuria
What's
connection?
What's your strongest connection?
Exactly.
Mine is Egypt for sure, but also Atlantis.
Same. Mine is Egypt and Atlantis. Isa has memories. Amazing.
I even have memories from other planets when I was in training.
Yes. He had severe soldier training. Literally, guys.
I had military training before coming to Earth.
Yes.
And I remember it very vividly.
My goodness. Some scary stuff. So many, Lemuria, Susan says Lemuria. It's interesting. I don't remember Lemuria, but I remember my time as a high priestess in
Many
Atlantis.
people are saying Egypt and Atlantis.
Beautiful,
Absolutely.
guys. That's amazing.
So the reason we hold all of these memories of Egypt and Atlantis is because they're embedded within the deep recesses of our DNA. And that is because we were there. If you are a light worker watching these transmissions, if you're on your ascension journey right now, then I can bet that you were there in Egypt and at the time of Atlantis, because we light workers are all from the same soul group. And we come here in groups to carry out our missions. And our soul group is broadly categorized under the group of the Law of One. And what is the Law of One? The Law of One is a set of teachings that was brought to humanity by Ra, Thoth, Isis. And it basically, the gist of the Law of One is that there is only one creator and everything emerges from the one. And then the universe was created through many dimensions, and it goes into a lot of detail about the creation of the universe and the laws that govern this universe. So there's a lot that we know about the Law of One, but there's a lot that we also do not know. We are also recollecting and reconnecting the dots about the Law of One. But it is a framework that if we follow from A to Z, it will help you ascend. That's what it is. So the Law of One basically is a framework that replaces your mainstream religions. And most of humanity was present at the time of Atlantis. We've gone into this in great depth in previous videos. But the gist of it is that 50,000 years ago, Atlantis was a great civilization where extraterrestrials walked with humans. There was advanced technology. We used to be able to walk through portals. Humans were walking alongside with very powerful extraterrestrials. The ETs were like 12 feet tall, 10 feet tall, 14 feet tall, different races, different species. And it was a golden age, basically, 50,000 years ago. There were temples of ascension. There were temples of ascension, and the whole purpose of our society was to raise our frequency and cultivate a deeper connection with our planet. We used to live in balance and harmony with the planet. And also, our soul's purpose was to create more joy, create more connection and expansion, and remember who we are so we can ascend back into the higher dimensions.
And there were many temples in Atlantis. So some of you may have specific memories of Atlantis, because Serafina just said parts of my soul are still in these ancient times. When something happens in my lifetime here, it has effects there. And that's how time works. If you think about it, we have multi-dimensional existences in all of these realities. And what we're doing right now is we're healing all of them. Right now in this lifetime, we are bringing healing to all of these past, present, future, and we call this timeline healing. We do this in our Metatronic Healers Academy. It's called timeline healing. And
you were saying there were multiple temples in Atlantis.
Oh yeah, there's multiple temples. For example, I remember, and many of you may have had memories of this. Thank you, Saman. Like there's the temple of healing, there's the temple of sound healing, there's the temple of, where I wrote this down, there's a few temples of sacred geometry, there's the temple of the heart, there's temple of purification. We've seen some of these in our astral travels. There's also temples to connect more specifically with higher dimensions. And I remember being a Hathor priestess in the temple of sound healing, and my voice, and even in this lifetime I have some kind of a connection with Hathor.
Explain a bit more what Hathor means.
Yeah, so Hathors are these sixth density higher dimension beings, and they work closely with us here on earth to activate more of our gifts to connect us with the higher realms. And Hathors are sound alchemists. They heal through their voice. So for example, you know how in healing we do all kinds of things, we do implant removals and this and that. There's many different techniques and ways to do these things. What the Hathors are teaching me, what my Lyran higher self is teaching me, is very like quick. It's a quick implant removal method using my voice, which once attuned to the Hathor frequency, and I'm already well on the way to it, just the voice. So I'll give you another example. In the pyramid, what the Hathors used to do is the Hathor high priests and priestesses used to sit in a very specific room in the king's chamber of the pyramid. And all the initiates, and many of you have been there. All of us have been at the pyramids. We've gone through intense initiations. So we've been, like, let's say in the Well of Fear, which is at the base of the pyramid, or the King's Chamber. There's the Queen's Chamber. There's the Well of Fears, and there's many
And there's a few other chambers that we're not allowed to go to.
And the way the Hathors used to do these activations is we would sit in the King's Chamber, and many of us high priestesses, Hathor high priestesses, would chant together. And just with that chant, those chants and the sound frequencies would echo and reverberate in the entire pyramid and go down through the walls, through the layers, into all the rooms. And just those chants used to activate people. And we're going to be doing all of this when we go to Egypt next year in the House of Ra tour. I can't wait.
She's going to be channeling the Hathors.
For sure. I can feel them coming in already. And he's going to be we're going to be channeling a lot of high beings, because guys, it's time. It's not like, oh, we're channelers and we're going to show off. It's not that at all. I want you to understand the purity of this. We are here to help each other remove these implants, remove
and activate our DNA.
Yes, that's what it's all about. So the Hathors have a very sacred mission to help humanity, just like the Pleiadians, just like the Arcturians,
yeah,
and all these higher dimension beings.
Absolutely. So we were so getting back to the timeline, 50,000 years ago, we were in Atlantis. We were with many masters from the galaxy, and Earth was an ascended place connected to other planets. So there were two factions. There's always been the light and the dark, because Earth is a planet of polarity. So the light ones are the children of the law of one, and you and I were there. We've also shared, it's not like if you're of the family of light, if you're of the family of the law of one, it's not that you're always incarnated as a light being, because our soul sometimes goes to the dark side, sometimes comes to the light side. So in some lifetimes you may have done horrible things, but primarily our soul group is from the law of one, and we were all the mystery school initiates. We were the ones working on the ascension. We were the ones working on creating a stronger connection with God. And all of these teachings were considered very sacred. So all of these teachings were passed down verbally, generation through generation. And they were also encoded within our DNA. So we didn't have to remember all the teachings. We just embodied them, right? But then there's the dark group. The dark group were from the negative Anunnaki who came from Sirius B. They were a lesser evolved species. They were still warring tribe, and they came and took over the planet forcefully. They initiated many wars. They initiated territorial disputes. So they broke the laws of the universe to pillage our planet, basically. Because of the war, about 25,000 years ago, Atlantis began to descend. It went in a downward spiral. So we went from a golden age into a very dark spiral. So from 25,000 years ago until 12,000 years ago, it was basically a destructive cycle of Earth that got worse and worse and worse. And because of the many wars and destruction that was caused, the entire continent of Atlantis sank. And when we're talking about Atlantis, it's literally the continent the size of the USA or the size of Australia. It was a huge, massive piece of land, and it connected the African and Middle Eastern region to the eastern hub of USA and Canada. So if you actually see the world map, it kind of roughly fits Africa and the US, kind of roughly fit, you can see the shape. But in between was a whole landmass the size of Australia that sank to the ground. And to this date, if you go scuba diving off the coast of Cuba or near the Bermuda Triangle area or Hawaii, these are all areas that are still vibrating portals. They're portals of Atlantis. And divers have discovered giant monolithic structures of ancient temples and
Pyramids.
80 feet tall statues of these ancient gods. So all of this evidence is buried underwater and it's not allowed to come out. It's not allowed to be publicized, but it's there. And we've seen it in underground books. So Atlantis sank, and then the whole point of Atlantis was to help humanity ascend, right? But after the destruction, all the ascended masters, and by the ascended masters, the main ones involved in the ascension of humanity are Thoth, Isis, Ra. Ra is the sixth density being, he's not an ascended master. There was Yeshua, Mary Magdalene.
Anubis.
There were like a whole pantheon. I'm just naming like 6 of them. There were like hundreds of them. And these are all mystery school adepts from the higher dimensions, which means they're highly spiritually evolved beings from Lyra, from Sirius B, from the Pleiades, and they've had incarnations all over the galaxy. And then they came as volunteers out of their unconditional love for humanity. They wanted humanity to have a fighting chance to survive. Without their guidance, we would not be here today. We would not even be talking to you. Earth would probably be in World War III by now.
You're talking about when they came after Atlantis, right?
No, like the fact that they even came to Atlantis, the fact that they even came to Egypt. Without the masters, we would not be here.
Right.
Earth would be in a destructive cycle.
Right.
So when Atlantis was destroyed, it was heartbreaking. Like so much effort had been put and we were close to ascending as a planet. We had almost completed our curriculum of ascension, but humanity still had greed. That's why the dark overpowered the light. So then they had to wait, because when the continent of Atlantis sank, it's almost like humanity was close to extinction. There were only a couple thousand humans left, and the ones who survived were literally like, it was like living on Earth was like a nuclear winter. For 1,000 years, it was an ice age.
And many of us still have the pain of Atlantis sinking in our cellular DNA. Many of us feel it. Like, I don't know if you guys remember this, but I literally remember that I was with the children. I was a friend, a guardian, a custodian of the children. And I remember, and many of you might have these memories. And I told my guides I don't want to cry. The hardest part about this video was we were preparing for it and I started feeling the energies and I started crying, and I'm like, I have one request. I don't want to cry because I can't transmit this and cry, but it's coming back.
Crying is the transmission.
You know, I have these very vivid memories in when Atlantis sank.
I remember that part.
And I remember this song. I don't know why I remember this song in my DNA. Many of you might remember it, where we watched everybody sang and singing, and to comfort the children, I started singing with some other priestesses, friends of mine, and we started singing, "All lang syne, my dear, all lang syne."
It was a very emotional time for humanity, and all of us carry the wound of that destruction. That's why many of us are feeling so much trauma and karma that we have to wash out of our system before we can make it again. And it was a very sad time because the destruction happened so quickly and many people could not be saved. And I also remember I was going to different temples. My job at that time was I was the high priest of some Atlantean temple. I was working with Tehote. I was working with Isis. So was Eldora. Eldora was more working with the Temple of Sound and the Hathor. And I was working under the temple. It was focused on ascension. So our main job, from my end, I remember, was to take all the sacred crystals. We used to have like 80 feet tall Arcturian crystals that had encoded all of the knowledge of Atlantis. And there were 12 of these Arcturian crystals that were huge. And we had to bury them in key places underground so that they would not be destroyed and all the information would remain in the grids of the planet. So now we're remembering this knowledge because of those crystals that we buried, right? So we set ourselves up for a slam dunk, and it's working.
And many of you will have these memories. If you don't remember the pain that I'm crying with, this is all in your cellular DNA. And as you start vibrating higher and raising your DNA levels and healing your distorted DNA, and this is our whole vortex. This is what we do in our healings. This is what we do in every event of ours. Our intention is to heal and repair your distorted DNA, activate and repair your light body, Merkaba. This is what helps you go higher in the, in your consciousness. So let's get back to the story.
Yeah. So now we're up to 12,000 years ago where Atlantis sank.
Yeah.
And the Ascended Masters had to wait in the higher dimensions to see what would happen if humanity would even survive or not. But fortunately, there was a plan. Humans survived, and we came back out of the caves after 1,000 years and created a civilization. It was a very rough start.
So basically, a
couple thousands of humans were survivors.
They went underground to save themselves from the nuclear radiation caused by this explosion of this crystal technology in Atlantis that had gone terribly wrong because we abused it, like the negative extraterrestrials abused it for the control of power, and the crystals just blew up and it created a nuclear holocaust. And so some of the survivors, they spread out all over, and there were a few survivors, and for 1,000 years there was nothing. It was literally barren.
Yeah, it was literally barren. And then the Ascended Masters just watched these survivors rebuild society, and Egypt became a thriving civilization of farmers and peasants. So Egypt was a very, very fertile land because of the river Nile. Oops, sorry. The river Nile was made the land very fertile, and a huge civilization arose there. But also, Egypt was not just starting from scratch. Egypt was a very powerful city in the time of Atlantis. So this is a key point that I want to make today. Egypt was Atlantis, okay? Egypt was a part of Atlantis that did not sink. And to this day, if you go to Egypt, the vortices and the power that you feel from the land, it will literally make you tremble and cry. Like when we went to Egypt and saw some of those ancient Stargate portals, there's literally temples there, and the hieroglyph translates to Stargate, and we've stood under a physical Stargate. It was not functional, but it used to be used for interdimensional travel in the past. So Egypt, the temples in Egypt are 80,000 years old from the times of Atlantis. They were not destroyed. So now humanity had all their memories wiped out because the electromagnetic grid of the planet was completely destroyed.
So let's go back. So when Atlantis was destroyed, all of humanity's memory and connection to the higher realms was destroyed.
Why was our memory destroyed? Because your mind is connected to the electromagnetic grid of the planet, right? The electromagnetic grid looks like an apple shape. If you place a circle, which is Earth in the middle, and create like a field like this, that's the electromagnetic grid of the planet. You cannot have any memory unless that grid is in place. When there's a nuclear winter on Earth, that whole grid collapses and it causes a pole shift. Now we're getting a bit technical. But basically all of this chaos scrambled our memories and we didn't remember anything. All we knew was how to survive. So then the Ascended Master said, okay, now the time is ripe. Now we have to rebuild civilization and give humanity a chance to ascend again. So the first thing they did was build the pyramids. The Sphinx was already there. The Temple of Osiris was there, which is from Atlantis. But the pyramid was, according to our information, was built about 7,000 BC. It's not that ancient. It's very recent. So the pyramid was built 7,000 BC. And how was the pyramid built? So this is channeled directly from Thoth, and I've also confirmed this information from other very reputable sources. Thoth built the pyramids from the sixth density. Okay, so the way the pyramid was built is, let me see this piece of paper.
When you go to Egypt, there's like a lot of people who think, like much of humanity, your textbooks, your history books, thinks that slaves, like the slaves or like slave labor, carried these 1-ton bricks on their back and somehow created the pyramid. But when you go to Egypt and your memory starts to activate, what you'll start to realize is, holy shit, there must have been some ET technology. There must have been something. We must have had higher assistance to even do something like this, because if slaves did this, it would take them 100 years. And it could not have been done with the kind of precision that the pyramid currently vibrates.
So, this is the quick impromptu diagram I've built about the construction of the pyramid. So basically, Thoth and Ra together built the pyramids because Thoth and Ra are very powerful six-dimensional entities. Okay? In the sixth density, your thought manifests very quickly. So if I think of an apple in the sixth density, it'll be in my hand in 1 second. But if I think of a pyramid, it might take a few days. So they went up into the sixth density and they sent a ray of imagination down to the sacred site where, so the pyramid cannot just be built on, hey, this is a nice lot, let's buy it. They have to choose the exact spot where Sirius B lines up with planet Earth. So they knew exactly that's where Sirius B connects with planet Earth, because Sirius B is like the great central sun of our planet.
So the apex of the pyramid on top, it literally connects and lines up to Sirius B.
Yeah, and more precisely, the Sphinx is also lined up precisely with Sirius B. So now they had to have human volunteers. So this circle is human volunteers who formed a chain. So think of like 300-400 humans that formed a physical circle on the ground, and Thoth and Ra chose these initiates from their mystery school because they needed a physical anchor in the third density to create the pyramid. Now think of Thoth and Ra in the sixth density and this chain of hundreds of humans around the site of the pyramid. There's no pyramid yet. They sent a frequency of their visualization of the pyramid because they can visualize it with magic. And they sent that sixth density frequency into the hearts and minds of the initiates. And these initiates had to be carefully selected too. They couldn't be just anyone off the street. These initiates were purified in the mystery schools before they could become ready to create the pyramids. So Thoth and Ra sent the sixth density signal and the pyramid materialized out of thin air. So the rocks, everything off the pyramid, it took literally hours or days to create the pyramid from scratch. So the first thing that happened was the ground opened up and created a foundation. Underneath the pyramid is an inverted pyramid that is identical to the top part of the pyramid. So the pyramid is not just like this, it's an octahedron. It's an upward pyramid, and in the foundation is a downward pyramid. So the Giza pyramid is actually an octahedron. And so the first thing that happened was the ground opened up, and then all the stones and everything was formed, and on top the pyramid was formed. And the pyramid was formed with such precision, and this is one thing scientists cannot dispute. If you go to Egypt today and you look at two of these 5-ton rocks standing next to each other, you cannot even pass a piece of paper through them. There's no like cement or anything covering them. You cannot even pass, they're so precisely joined together because they're created from a higher dimension. And not all the rocks are the same size. It's as if you take like a jigsaw puzzle and all the rocks fit together. So this was a higher dimensional technology.
Now let's focus on why were the pyramids built.
Why were the pyramids built?
So I want you guys to, there's a lot of information here, okay? So we're talking about how Atlantis fell, and we're talking about how Thoth, Ra, Isis, all these, higher dimensional beings materialized the pyramid onto Earth to help with the ascension of humanity. So why was it built?
Yeah, so they wanted humanity to ascend. They did not want all these peasants and farmers to waste all their time in the toil of labor. So they built the pyramid. The pyramid had many functions. One of the primary functions was that it provided electricity to society. So the pyramid is an electrical conductor. it has many components that are missing now, so it can't produce electricity. But also, the pyramid could create weather modification in harmony with nature, not like the HARP weather modification. The pyramid created the ideal weather conditions in Giza, in that area of Cairo, whatever it was called at that time. So the peasants could enjoy the harvest without wasting all their lives in labor. And so when their time was freed up, they could now spend more time on their ascension and evolution. So they first created the ideal conditions for society to thrive, so they would not have to toil in labor all the time.
But the most important reason for the pyramid, sorry to interrupt, was to hold the ascension energies of planet Earth.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not just to farm. That kind of sounds funny, actually.
Yeah.
So tell them that.
Yeah. Thanks for reminding me.
Farming, I'm like, no.
Okay, there were so many purposes.
But the main purpose was to hold the grids, guys. So think about it, like the pyramids are there to literally anchor the energies from Sirius B and Lyra and all these higher dimensions. And so basically what they did was they didn't just build the pyramids. They built the pyramids. They built the Stonehenge and Avebury stone circle in UK. And
at the same time, so 7,000 years ago, Avebury, Stonehenge, all of the ancient rocks that have been placed there on the grids of the planet were precisely coinciding with the pyramid, and they were both created at the same time.
And basically what they've done is through the pyramids, through all these Stonehenge circles in UK, through Avebury stone circles and all these ley lines that have been created, like even in Stonehenge, what is the reason for all these stones? It's to help move the energy, move the kundalini of Earth through the stones, because stones are conductors of energy. So basically the energy moves. And even Siman and I, through our own life in the last few years, we've been doing major planetary grid work. And we started off in Miami, and we did land healing there. Then we did it in Tulum. There's like a relation. Then we were guided to go to Croatia, of all places. And we were told that now next we're going to Glastonbury in August for Lionsgate. And many of you are coming. Many of you are planning to come. Do not forget to check out the event if you haven't already. It's www.NEMS.LOVE/888. For the Lionsgate this year, we're going to do major work. So basically what all these stones, the pyramid, they're all doing is they're getting the higher dimensional technology and energies through the apex, through the stones, and helping connect it to humanity. Now, there's so many areas Siman's going in. I feel like we need to harmonize it to the storyline, because this is a very loaded topic.
Yeah.
So where I want to take this story is how Yeshua came into all of this. So now Atlantis sank.
No,
Egypt.
we have to tell a bit more about Egypt and how we can't skip past Akhenaton and Nefertiti.
I know, but it's like
we'll stick to the point. We'll stick to the point.
Yeah.
So the pyramids were created so that the grids of the earth could be harmonized again, and because of the grids of the earth, because of the pyramid and this Sphinx and Glastonbury and the Mayan pyramids and Bosnian pyramids, there's actually hundreds of thousands of pyramids all over the earth. And they are all connected.
Yes.
And they create like a serpent line. It's called the serpent dragon line.
Yeah.
And that basically all the pyramids are the path of the Kundalini to travel. Without that, the Kundalini would be haywire, and we would also go crazy. But now humanity has a path to ascend. So next, the Ascended Masters started teaching humanity about science, mathematics, and whatnot. And they didn't want to interfere with our society. And over thousands of years, humans that were taught by Thoth, Ra, Isis, and all the masters, they began to abuse their powers. Okay? So that's where the evil pharaohs of Egypt came in. The evil pharaohs of Egypt were the ones who took all the ancient knowledge of Atlantis from the masters. They were supposed to be teachers for humanity, but they decided to hoard the knowledge because they were the sons of Belial. They were the sons of the Dark Ones. And they hoarded the knowledge and made humanity worship them for their powers. So Ra is like a sixth density Pleiadian being. He's a sun. His energy is like as powerful as the sun. That's why he's known as the sun god. So Ra became the deity who all Egyptians worship. They thought he was the god. They thought he was the god of Egypt. So what the evil pharaohs would do, instead of saying the true teachings of the law of one, they would say, yes, Ra is the god, and I am the son of the god. So they distorted the truth again. And they said, because I'm the son of the God, you have to worship me. And I'm the only channel who can connect you with God. So now Egypt went back into, 7,000 to 3,000 years ago, Egypt went back into a downward spiral of slavery, of abuse of power. It was
Idol
like a
worship.
repeat of Atlantis.
Yes.
We were going to go be annihilated again.
So let's just take a moment to understand. We've always had these ascension markers set up, right? This is very important. We talked about Atlantis. We haven't even gone into Lemuria because that was first. So Atlantis was a thriving civilization. The dark took over, and basically our own greed for power and whatever came in, and it was destroyed. Now Egypt starting to thrive again, but immediately the teachings of Ra, the teachings of the law of one were again distorted, where a lot of these human pharaohs and maybe extraterrestrials said, hey, we're God, we're Amun-Ra. Like, for example, Amun-Ra is not a benevolent ruler. Amun-Ra is, when you go to Egypt, you'll see all these faces all over the walls, the hieroglyphs and stuff. But what they did was they said, my name is Amun, and because Ra was very, worshipped, people started worshipping Ra, and Thoth and Isis never wanted to be worshipped. So the worship started causing all these idol worship and god worship, and again Egypt started to go in a very downward spiral because the pharaohs started adding the name Ra as their last name and pretending that they were the big deal. Now we're going to tell you the story of how the higher dimensional beings all basically, to prepare the grids of earth for Yeshua, who came and walked the planet, let's say 1,000 years after
2,000 years ago.
1,000 years after Egypt, I would say, for Yeshua to come in. So Atlantis, we've talked about. We've now got you up to Egypt, but now we're giving you the bridge between Egypt and Yeshua.
Yeah.
So what happened was, you want to tell the story?
You can tell.
Okay. So now what happened was, once again, Egypt was starting to get, in the dark control, the dark tyranny, it was starting to spiral down. So what Thoth and Isis and all of them did was they had a meeting in the higher realms, and they said, all right, we need to think of a clever plan to save humanity, because ultimately what their interest was to help Earth ascend, a whole planet, a whole civilization, a whole, race to ascend out of darkness. So what they did was they Thoth came up with a very clever, ingenious plan. There were two souls, basically Nefertiti and Akhenaton, that in the higher dimensions had passed all the mystery school teachings, that had really shown through the purity of their heart that they were incredibly ascension-oriented human, souls, and they had very high, pure of heart. They had passed all the initiations. They were high priests, high priestesses. And what they said was, the only way we can prevent darkness from once again taking on Earth is for us to put one of our representatives on Earth.
As a pharaoh.
As a king, as a pharaoh, whatever. Now, this is impossible, because in Egypt, you cannot just be a pharaoh. You have to be born to a pharaoh to be a pharaoh, right? That's how kings work. So somehow, we do not know the story of how, but we've been shown that Thoth literally came in with his angel wings, and he put on a dramatic display. He came down into this density, and he had a talk with the ruler of Egypt. And he said, listen, right now, this is going really, really bad. Egypt is going to be destroyed in a few thousand years. There's no way you can save. If your son becomes the king of Egypt, everything's going downhill. We do not know how Thoth managed to convince the pharaoh, but basically what they said was, let us put one of our own people in your palace. You raise this person, we will come in and teach you or teach him the law of one teachings, and that person will become the pharaoh of Egypt. This had never, ever happened before. Never before had the bloodline been broken where an outsider became the king or the pharaoh. Now, this is where Nefertiti and Akhenaton came in. So Nefertiti and Akhenaton were not conceived in the normal ways. You know how we talk about Yeshua, who was never, it's like he was born out of a virgin mother or whatever the story is. Nefertiti and Akhenaton were pure souls that were inserted. You want to do it?
No, go ahead.
That were inserted in order to save the timelines in Egypt, okay? So Nefertiti and Akhenaton, to cut a long story short, they were madly in love. They were growing up.
And they were higher dimensional beings.
They were higher dimensional beings.
Earth.
They were very adept in the mystery school teachings. They had passed all the higher level mystery school teachings of Isis. So they had studied under Isis, studied under Thoth. And think of them as A++ students of the Ascension.
And they were graduates of the Great White Lodge of Sirius B.
Yes.
So they had, which is the mystery school in the higher dimensions.
Yes.
And then they came to Earth.
So basically, Thoth convinced the ruler, the pharaoh, the old man pharaoh of Egypt, to take Akhenaton, adopt baby Akhenaton, and make him the next ruler of Egypt. And we do not know what Thoth did, but the pharaoh basically said yes. So Akhenaton went into the royal family. He was raised,
adopted.
he was adopted, and he became the next king of England. Now,
Of Egypt.
Egypt. Now, Akhenaton and Nefertiti were the last. I know I can't even read your comments, but I see your energy, you guys. I can feel your excitement. Trust me, we feel the same. And the story is just about to get very juicy, by the way. That's why I'm going slow. So basically, Akhenaton and Nefertiti were the last holders of the light in Egypt. Basically, before Yeshua. So once Akhenaton, and I'll tell you how they perished, but once they perished, Egypt was without any light until Yeshua came. So anyway, back to the story. So Akhenaton and Nefertiti, madly in love, they got married. Even before they were married,
knew each other from a young age.
Yeah, it was a very love marriage. Yes.
Yeah.
So they got together, they became the king and the queen, and they reigned, or they ruled over Egypt for 17 years. And their rule was a very, very beautiful rule. They immediately started connecting with Ra. They immediately started learning the laws, the law of one teachings, and they already knew it, but because they had incarnated in Earth, which is a different density, they were once again connecting their higher, like directly, they had direct masters come and train them so that they could train the people in Egypt. And they were very loved by their students. They were very loved because they started a mystery school of their own, and they were very loved and revered by their students, thousands and thousands of students. And many of you are part of those students. I'm going to get to the story in a bit. But because they shook up, they really stirred up trouble, they started getting really bad, a very bad reputation.
Let's talk about how they were taught by Ra. So before their kingdom even started, Akhenaton was actually visited by the deity known as Ra. And we were actually visited by Ra in this lifetime, so we feel quite honored. And Ra taught Akhenaton and Nefertiti the ways of the laws of one. Okay, so Akhenaton became enamored with these teachings because they were already in his DNA, and he remembered everything. And he became a devout student of Ra. And he was also in the mystery school. Akhenaton and Nefertiti were in the mystery school of Isis and Thoth in the higher dimensions. So they were like, once again, spiritual masters on earth, and they began their kingdom. Now, Akhenaton changed things too fast, okay? As a ruler, he took the whole religion of Egypt, which was idol worship and worshiping all these false gods, which were the previous pharaohs. And he changed all of that and said, this is no longer allowed. The law of one is the way to go. And there's only one creator, and everything else is heresy and bullshit. So he called bullshit on the whole of Egypt, which is a very ballsy move to make. And another thing that Akhenaton and Nefertiti did was they isolated themselves, and they created a whole kingdom in a city that was built from scratch. It's the city of Tel al-Amaran, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And that city still exists in Egypt, but it was the buildings are destroyed. So Akhenaton and Nefertiti changed the whole religion of Egypt overnight, and they started teaching about the law of one. And they attracted a lot of attention from mystery school students, like students from all over the world, students from the UK, Scotland, Tibet, all over the world. People would travel thousands of miles to Egypt because that became the central hub of science, of mathematics, of astronomy. Tehote, or Thoth, was also the one who brought writing. He was known as the scribe of the gods. So he brought writing. So all of these technologies are new. We didn't even write records. We didn't have written records before Egypt. So it was becoming a hub for so much knowledge and so much light. For 17 years, they increased the light in Egypt. But after that, the enemies became very bold. The enemies wanted to basically destroy the empire of Akhenaton and Nefertiti, because many people were alienated. They felt alienated. How would you feel if I came today into
Mosque.
Catholic household and say, hey, you guys are following Satan and this should not be your religion, and from today this is our religion. They would say, fuck you, right? They will go to war against you.
And also, it wasn't in the pharaoh's best interest, in all of the people, because they want power and greed and control. You can't just say, oh, now, like, we're just normal human mortal beings, and the prime creator is. They wanted to be gods themselves. So they basically, there was a huge upturn. There was
And
a
the
huge
uprising
roar.
against them was basically led by Marduk. Marduk is also known as Amun-Ra. And Amun-Ra is one of the most ruthless pharaohs or rulers of Egypt. He ruled a different land in Egypt, but he basically he banded up with all the other rulers and created an army that took down their whole dynasty. And he obliterated Akhenaton and Nefertiti from the history books. That's why you can't find much literature on Akhenaton and Nefertiti, because their name was deleted from every text. And they also destroyed their statues. There's one statue of Akhenaton in the Cairo Museum, and there's a statue in Germany of Nefertiti, the bust of Nefertiti. That's
Hold on,
very
let me
famous.
tell them the
It's
story.
actually this bust of Nefertiti.
Shane, one of our mystery school students, gifted Siman this t-shirt, and I'm going to tell you why. So guys, this is as blown fucked crazy for us as it is for you, but so basically this is like our whole life, and everything's just starting to make sense now in a very, very galactic and a very, very real way. Very real way. In fact, we're living it. So 4 years ago, we were in Niagara Falls, Toronto, in the Toronto region, Niagara Falls, and Siman and I were contacted by Ra. Very clear.
Not contacted, visited.
Visited, yes.
Like we felt liquid light descend upon us. It looked yellow, and it tasted like miso soup. Like it had a vibration that it could feed you.
Yeah.
It was very nourishing.
Very nourishing. And we
Yeah.
had booked an Airbnb.
We were just like high in that energy.
We had booked an Airbnb with a big field, almost like it was planned, and it happened in that Airbnb, in that big field, and Ra came in, and Ra basically in an instant gave us the whole download. He said, you guys are the house of Ra. We had no idea. We had just started our YouTube channel. We were just nobodies. We weren't even as awake as we are today. We're right now holding a very high consciousness. 4 years ago, we were not there. We were just starting off like our YouTube channel, didn't know what we were going to do with life, didn't know what our soul mission was and whatnot. So Ra came in and he said to us, you are the house of Ra. And he gave us the transmission of house of Ra. So we were all happy. Ooh, house of Ra, so nice. And he gave me my name, and he said, in the heavens we call you Ra Child. And so that became my DJ name. When I DJ, I'm Ra Child. Even then, we made no sense of it. We got the houseofra.com. It was $5,000 to buy it, and Ra said, get it. And we're like, why the hell
website.
would we buy a website called House of Ra? COVID is going on, everything's shut. He said, just get it. Now we host festivals as the House of Ra. Now this is not all. You guys will get the pieces as I'm saying this. Many of you will. 2 years after Ra visited us, we were in Sedona. This was 2 years ago. We met this Akashic record lady who's very, very famous there. And she didn't know us. She didn't know we were YouTubers. She didn't know anything about us. We didn't know anything about her. Somebody had referred her to us or us to her. We sat in her office, and she looked at us and she said, that's how you both used to sit in Egypt. And we're like, what the hell is this mad woman talking about? Like, we had no idea what she was talking about. And she said, you were Akhenaton, and you, Eldora, were Nefertiti. And I said, I don't know who they are. I had never heard of them. He had kind of heard of them. I had never heard of them. She said, I'm looking at the Akashic records, and you both played a very, very historical role in ancient Egypt. I was your oracle back then. And she doesn't usually speak like this. She has a very, very good reputation. We were just shocked. It was a 90-minute session. She gave us all kinds of angles.
All the hair in the back of my neck rose up when I heard this information.
And even then, we hadn't put the pieces together. And just back to back to back to back over the last 2 years, everything started to click. Back in Egypt, we worked with the Law of One. You know, spreading the teachings of Ra, spreading the teachings of the Law of One. Right now, what are we doing? What are we doing in this lifetime? I'm getting emotional again. We are the House of Ra. We are spreading love. We are teaching
and we're
humanity.
Connecting with the same beings. Isis, Thoth, Ra, all of the same beings.
We have a mystery school. By the way, we call it New Earth Mystery School, but now we're getting like a little bit of preliminary guidance that back in the day, the mystery school in Egypt was Nakal Mystery School. That was the mystery school that Akhenaton and Nefertiti, like basically it was called NAKAAL Mystery School, a very, very, very prestigious mystery school. So we're like, should we rename our New Earth Mystery School to that? It's still marinating.
Its essence is the same.
But its essence is the same. So they're saying, what are you doing here? You are hosting House of Ra music festivals. You are going on world tours to Egypt.
And you're a sound priestess.
I'm
working with Hathor.
Working with Hathor. I'm working with Egypt, with Isis. We've had direct visitations by Yeshua, and we're going to talk in a bit about how Yeshua comes into this whole grand picture. And everything's just starting to click. So Nefertiti and Akhenaton came in Egypt, and we have very vivid memories, you guys, of our palace going down. Siman was with our oldest daughter, and I was not with them. And all of these people, we have vivid memories.
I have vivid memories of my 14-year-old daughter in my arms, and we were hiding in the last room of the palace. I didn't know where my wife was. Nefertiti had fled in a caravan with 3 of our children, and we were separated. And the guards from the enemies had slaughtered all of our army, and our defenses were down. And they stormed into the room, and they actually tortured and killed me and my daughter. I have memories of that. I'm just saying it
clear,
as if it happened.
Clear memories.
And it's actually quite painful. I even feel an ancient pain in the back of my, in the bottom of my spine. And that's when a spear was inserted in my spine.
And
so it's quite painful.
And the message, and what was the recollection, the memory that we had was, it's not our time now.
Was, this is not our time. We all said this to each other before departing. We said, this is not our time, but we will come back to earth stronger than ever before. And at that time, we will be unstoppable. And this
unfuckwittable.
This current incarnation is that time. This time we cannot be stopped. So many people are saying, when we say Amen, are we saying Amun Ra? Are we praying to Amun Ra? That's 100% correct, because Amun Ra was the one that put all the false religion of Christianity. They even created the religion of Islam. And all of this was to create worship for the false gods. Again, they're sucking our louche energy through worship, which is what they used to do in Egypt. They've just become more civilized, more sophisticated. But when you say Amen, you're actually sending your energy to Amun Ra. So yes. Don't say Amen.
Okay, so now where do we want to take the storyline? So hold on.
Yeah.
So basically we talked about Atlantis. We talked about how Nefertiti and Akhenaton were placed as anchors of the light in ancient Egypt. We talked about how we have had very direct messages, guidances, channelings, real life remembrances that I was Queen Nefertiti, Siman was Akhenaton, the king, and we ruled over Egypt for 20 years, sharing the law of one teachings, and we were assassinated. Our whole kingdom was taken down because it wasn't time yet. And then basically what we did in those 17 years in Egypt, and we've had very clear memories of this, and this is where many of you come in, you guys. Many of you are attracted to our vortex. Many of you are attracted to us. I see your emails. I see your comments. I see your messages in our Discord channel. I see many of you are mystery school, are members of our mystery school, students of the New Earth Mystery School. And there's this ancient remembering in us where you just know that we are here to finish what we started. Who here knows that? Comment and let me know. Who here has that memory? You guys know that we were in ancient Egypt. Who here knows it? Maybe none of you do, but I know many of you do, because many of you have told me this directly, like Aya and so many of you. They said, we remember our times from Egypt and we're here to finish what we started, no matter what. And basically what it is that in those 17 years in Egypt, we had a mystery school where many of you were part of that mystery school. Yes, exactly. You were part of that mystery school.
And we know each other, of course.
And we know each other. Our souls know each other. We are time-coded to do this work together. That is why we're magnetizing to each other
like this. That's why when True Soul Family meets each other, when people come to our event, it's not like, hey, nice to meet you. No. It's more like a remembrance. It's more like, where have you been all these times, you bastard?
It's instant connection. It's instant connection. So now what happened was when Nefertiti and Akhenaton perished and their entire, imagine two leaders of the light one day being assassinated. Just imagine the trauma that all the students must have gone through. Now, what happened was these students, and we have memories of all this. We're completely channeling, you guys. Everything we're saying is we're channeling, and you guys will either feel it in your heart, says, oh my God, truth, or you won't resonate with it. And either way is fine. Those of you who have to resonate with it will just feel it in your entire DNA, because I'm speaking to many of you directly. So what happened was when Nefertiti and Akhenaton were taken down, they were the last rulers of the light. They were the last beacons of light in Egypt. After that, until Yeshua came, there was no light. It was a very dark age on earth. Their students, there were thousands of students by then.
Hundreds of thousands.
There were hundreds of thousands of students who came from all over the world to learn from Nefertiti and Akhenaton.
And a huge body of them were from UK and Scotland area.
So they were the Celtics, they were the Druids. There was a lot of very
The
high
Tibetans.
frequency, pure-hearted souls who were students of these two, lovebirds. What they did was they spread out back all over the land. So they came to Egypt to learn, but they spread out. They went to Europe, they went to Glastonbury, they went to Stonehenge, they went to Tibet, they went all over, and they started their own mystery schools. They said, we're not going to let these teachings die. We are now going to carry on these teachings. I am getting full body goosebumps.
So the Celtics and the Druids, this is the connection between Egypt and Glastonbury. Glastonbury is the heart chakra of the planet. Egypt is the throat chakra of the planet. Both are very closely connected because the heart and the throat are next to each other. And even on the map, they're next to each other physically. So the teachings of the Law of One, the only surviving teachings of Atlantis, were carried forward by the students of Akhenaton and Nefertiti and spread throughout the world. And these were spread generation by generation over thousands of years through the word of mouth. In those days, it was more about oral tradition. So all the stories, all the ancient texts were memorized, and they were also scribed. So Glastonbury, the whole area was called the Isle of Avalon. It was an island at that time. Now it's become like all mainland. But the Isle of Avalon, there were actually 6,000 universities of the Druids mystery schools. The Druids basically were teaching Egyptian secrets. Okay, so all of these teachings of how to live in harmony with the world, with the earth's rhythms, how to harness the power of the solstice and equinoxes, how to connect with our higher dimensions, how to bring in our higher self, how to practice white magic so you can manifest things much faster. Even many teachings that went into mainstream science and mathematics came from the Law of One. So now it's time, 1,000 years after Akhenaton's rule, Yeshua came. And Yeshua and Mary Magdalene could not have incarnated on earth if Akhenaton and Nefertiti had not laid down the grid work of the Christ consciousness before them. So Akhenaton and Nefertiti played one of the most important roles in recent history for the ascension of mankind. They helped anchor and hold the highest light of Christ consciousness on our planet to allow the arrival of a being as high as Yeshua. And when Yeshua came, he was also taking the teachings of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Yeshua also trained in Egypt. Many people don't know this because Yeshua's history has been deleted or obscured. But Yeshua, as a young child, he was being persecuted at that time. The parents were being persecuted. So as soon as Yeshua was born, they had to escape that area and go to Egypt. And Yeshua, until the age of 11 or 12, was raised in the mystery schools of Egypt underground in hiding. And he became very masterful in this knowledge. And he carried this knowledge, and then he went with his uncle he traveled from Jerusalem to Glastonbury. And this is also not very well known, but Yeshua went to Glastonbury because many of his family links, Yeshua was raised with the Essenes, which were descendants of the Law of One, and the Druids were also descendants of the Law of One. So Yeshua's family were the Druids. They were his aunts and uncles and cousins. So he went to meet his family for the first time in Glastonbury, and that's where he anchored his energy into the Torah. So Yeshua continued the work of Akhenaton and Nefertiti, and he was successful in his mission. Many people think that Yeshua was assassinated, he was hung on the cross. That's not even true.
No.
His mission did not fail. Yeshua's mission was fulfilled. He anchored successfully the light of Christ consciousness in the heart of Mother Earth, which is
Yes.
Glastonbury. So he blessed Stonehenge, he blessed Avebury, he went to all these secret sites. And this August on 8/8 for Lionsgate Portal, we're being shown that Sirius is once again going to be sending the same ancient codes that used to be sent in times when Earth was ascended. And now, the same ascended masters who guided the mystery schools of Egypt are working with us, and they're guiding us how to activate these sacred sites again. Right now, Stonehenge and Avebury and all of these portals we're going to go to are semi-activated. You'll feel powerful energy there, but they're not connected to the higher dimensions. And we're going to do very sacred work there to remove many of the implants that are blocking the access of these portals to the higher dimensions. So people who are feeling the call to come to Glastonbury, this is a soul level call. This is one of the most important things you'll ever do. And when we're passed away to the higher dimensions, this is what we'll be remembered for. The ascended masters and the kingdom of heaven will actually honor us for this work. We're helping our planet ascend by opening up the portals after 2,000 years after Yeshua. So you and I, are continuing Yeshua's work 2,000 years later. How big is that?
And you know, guys, even when we look at our personal lives in 2024, like what are we in June already? I can't believe it. For the last few months, it's especially since we've launched this event, it literally feels like the masters are coming in. They're coming in and they're giving us instructions on what to do, how to purify ourselves. We're on a parasite cleanse. They're teaching us how to now ascend even past our current vibration and access the next level, because this is needed for all this grid work and planetary work. And remember, you and I, we've all done this grid work after Egypt to prepare the land for Yeshua, to hold the light at least till Yeshua came. Now we're doing the same thing again, but this time we're going to be successful. So guys, for those of you who are feeling the call and you've never heard this event, this is a time-coded, soul-contracted event for certain souls, because we cannot do it without you. We're all meeting together in Glastonbury this Lionsgate, August 7th to 11th, 2024, for the Glastonbury 888 Lionsgate Convergence. We're going to be going to Avebury, where Ascended Master Merlin literally contacted us last time and channeled an Excalibur activation through us. I'm pretty sure he's going to come in very
Merlin's
strongly.
Gonna be there for sure.
Very strongly. Merlin, I feel him the most actually. Out of all the masters right now calling us to Glastonbury, I feel Merlin the most.
There's a Merlin activation we're going to do.
Yeshua and Mary Magdalene are calling us to Stonehenge, where we'll be going in UK. That's where we're going to be removing the implants, and we don't know what we'll do yet, but we're being shown that we're all going to do it we're going to teach you guys and show you guys what we're going to do the previous day in classroom session, and then the next day we're going to be doing this freaking work together. We have somewhat of an idea what we're going to do, but I feel it's all going to be channeled. Then we're also going up to the Tor to receive the light on August 8th, which is Lionsgate. So
And
we're
the
going to
Tor is
retire.
the third eye of Glastonbury.
And that's where we were guided to do a Christed third eye activation to blast open the higher senses, because a lot of our third eye is blocked right now. It's so blocked and so distorted.
That's why many of us cannot connect to our higher channels and channel our guides so clearly.
And guys, you know what we were also shown recently is that a lot of us, let's say our polarity has to be one, like let's say a positive polarity is here and a negative polarity is here, and let's say this is what we need for ascension. Our polarities are reversed. Humanity has really been fucked up in a very major way. And the good news is that right now, for some reason, 2024, we've been doing this work for the last 10 years, very strongly for the past 4 years. But this year, 2024, it literally feels like the gears are just going, whoa, ascension. The mothership is just like, it's already taken off. And, another thing is this Glastonbury is what we're being shown. We talked about how all the underground, all the temples are connected. Glastonbury, Avebury, Giza Pyramid, the Mayan pyramids, the Sphinx, just basically all like
Boston
Uluru.
pyramids.
I'm sure everything's connected. The Croatian pyramids, everything, Bali. What we were shown is that we've already done work in Miami and whatnot. Until now, we've kind of held the grid work, but this is the first year where our really real work is getting started. What we do in Glastonbury I feel is in the heart chakra, is then going to open up what we're going to do next year in the throat chakra, which is Egypt.
100%.
It's like laying the groundwork before we go to Egypt. And then 2026, we're already receiving preliminary guidance that is going to be in Australia. So it feels like something's happening. And what's happening from an energy perspective is that Earth's Kundalini is also rising. Earth's Kundalini has been stuck in the grids because of all this war and pain and separation and child abuse and sickening
They
shit.
create wars to block the Kundalini because the land becomes so negative, polarized with all the bloodshed that the Kundalini cannot pass through it.
Oh, I love your message, Starla. Glastonbury this August is going to be next level. I'm having visions of what we are going to do, and the power and activations of this event feels very, very high and potent. It's Christed frequencies. I'm feeling Yeshua and Mary Magdalene very strongly coming in to work with us for this event. They are already preparing my husband and I for the healings that are coming.
Wow.
How lucky are we? Oh my God. Thank you for sharing that. And we're feeling the same.
We're lucky to have people like
They're
you.
coming in so strong to prepare us. And so for those of you who are on the verge, do it. This is like the best thing you can do for yourself. We love you. Is there anything else we have to cover, or shall we?
No, I think that's mostly it.
In coming videos, we'll talk more about King Arthur and the story of Merlin and the history of England. We're going to talk about all that in future videos. And I think this was amazing, you guys. Thank you so much. Don't forget the announcements that I made in the beginning. Number one, we have, where's the paper? Solstice ceremony, this solstice on June 20th, which is a Thursday. It's live on our YouTube channel, which is Eldora,
And it's free for everyone to attend.
It's our YouTube channel, Eldora and Siman. It's on June 20th, which is solstice, at 3:33 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So
And
that's
333 is the number of Christ consciousness.
Yes. So join us. Everybody join us. Even if you have to wake up in the middle of the night, join us. Set an altar, light a candle, light some sage, and really come in, because you're going to feel the angels. Many of you will start feeling the angels and the ascended masters that we're going to be bringing through. The second announcement I have is the solar flash attunement and quantum healing. This is happening on June 29th. So the first is the solstice ceremony, and then is the ceremony is on the 20th. 29th of June is the solar flash. It's like a solar flash relief kit. That's what we were shown. Like, guys, it was channeled saying your audience, your students need like a solar flash attunement. Otherwise, the solar flash will fry them. So imagine all this heavy intensity coming in from the sun. It's frying our system, right? What we're going to do is attune you. We're going to work on each of your chakras, clear out the density, clear out the distortions, basically give you a tune-up. Literally, in glamorous words, all we're going to do is give you guys a massive tune-up, and you're going to really feel it.
And it'll help with the intensity. Like if you're feeling nausea, if you're feeling disrupted sleep patterns, if you're feeling like changes in your diet, like gut issues, all of these are ascension symptoms. And there's many physical ailments that come with these intense solar flares that are coming to Earth. And they're just going to get more and more intense. So we were guided at New Earth Mystery School to hold this solar flash attunement. So people will just find it easier to process these energies. And also we'll leave you with some tangible tips on how you can change your lifestyle so it doesn't get so intense for you. There's certain things you can do so your body's more tuned vibrationally to receive the energy. And to join, you go to www.NEMS.LOVE, which is NEMS, New Earth Mystery School, NEMS.LOVE. And you can sign up for the membership. It's $88 a month right now, but it's going to go up by July 1st.
Yes, July 1st, our NEMS membership is going up to $144 a month. And those members who are already locked in at $88 get for now to keep the price at $88 a month. So this is a very good time to join NEMS.
If you join now, you can keep $88 a month until you have the membership.
We don't know yet. For now.
Oh, okay. We keep changing.
We might change the plans, but for now you get to keep the lower price. I don't like to make any indefinite statements, right?
Fine.
That's the guidance. So guys, these are two things that I wanted to tell you about. And what else? I guess that's it. Those are our, and also in the solstice ceremony, we're going to be picking 2 winners to go to Glastonbury. So for those of you who haven't yet applied or taken part in this raffle, you can go to our Instagram channel, which is Eldora Siman, one word, Eldora Siman, and you'll see a pinned reel talking about how you can get a free ticket. And we're going to draw 2 free tickets live, 2 winners live. We love you guys so much. Thank you so much for joining us for this amazing transmission. Have an amazing weekend, and we'll see you next week at the solstice ceremony. Invite your friends, invite your family. Anyone awakened is welcome, because the more the people, the more energy we create on this planet, the more world prayers we say, the more healing happens. Bye,
Love you all.
everyone. Love you.
Take care.